It is good to be with you today on live stream. And I remember a story. An older man came to see his doctor, and he looked worried when he came in to see his doctor for the annual physical. And the doctor, being a very observant man, looked at his patient and asked, "Is there something troubling you?" And the man said, "Well, to tell the truth, doctor, yes. You see, I seem to be getting more forgetful. Actually, it's worse than that. I'm never sure I remember where I put the car, or whether I answered a letter, or where I'm going, or what it is I'm going to do once I get there, if I get there. So I really need your help, Doc. What can I do?" Doctor paused thoughtfully for a moment and answered in his kindest tones, "You could pay me in advance." We're all feeling a bit lost these days. As I've said before, a lot of what we're going through emotionally right now is an experience of loss and grief. We're grieving all the things that we do not get to do or will not get to do this year. Many people around this world are also grieving the passing of loved ones. And among all the things we miss, I think one of the things that we feel the loss of every day is this experience of being with our friends and family. Human beings are social creatures. Even introverts need to have people in their lives. We just need them a little less often. Pastor Vicki and I had a Zoom meeting with other pastors a week ago Friday. And one by one, they were sharing stories of small victories and deep pains. And one of the pastors looked us right in the eyes, or right in the camera anyway, and said, that for us in the ministry, the experience of being together with our people is what gives us life. And right now, we are missing that thing that is life to us. I call that thing, that experience, that connection with the group, with people who love you, community. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. It is the feeling that we have a shared place where we belong, where we matter, where others care about us. We experience that in the way someone's eyes light up when they see us come into the room, or in the hugs and the physical contact that we experience, in the words of kindness. And none of us are getting enough of those things right now. We will get back to school, to extended family gatherings, to our organizations, and to in-person church services. But before we do, I want to talk about community. It is not something that will magically reappear just because things open up and opportunities to get together are again available. Community doesn't just appear out of thin air. It has to be created. It has to be nurtured by human effort. Let me share a story. Years and years ago, when Pastor Vicki and I were just getting started out in youth ministry in Southern California, I had the opportunity to counsel at high school church camps for several years in a row. There's one year early in that group of years that was amazing. The teenagers all arrived just with a great hunger for spiritual things. Each day of the week got better and better. Nobody was ragging on anyone else. There were no jokes at other people's expenses, laughing at the weird kids. Whatever the counselor started, the kids went all in. And nobody was playing too cool for school. It was a great spiritual high for all of the youth. The whole week was one long kumbaya moment. When Saturday morning came, it was time to pack up and for everyone to go home. about 90% of the kids were crying, even the boys. They couldn't bear for that experience to come to an end. It had been just so great. Fast forward 12 months. Time for high school camp the next year, and the kids came back. But for the first 2.5 days, it was like nothing was happening. Not much laughter, very few hugs, just seeming everybody going through the motions. By Wednesday morning counselor staff meeting, the adults were all totally confused and on the verge of panic. What was going on? And suddenly it hit us. The youth had come to camp this year, experiencing what they had expecting. They came to camp expecting that what they had experienced the year before would magically happen just by being in the same space. And instead of doing kindnesses, instead of people putting their hearts out there in vulnerable love to one another, instead of the youth just jumping on board with silly goofiness with all the things that the counselors were doing, they were sitting and waiting and wondering why there was no magic. And we realized that we had to challenge them with the knowledge that love happens, community happens, only when people make it happen. Friends, when all this is done, it is your job and my job to build up our community once again. So I want to share 3 things about community today. First, Christian community is built upon our Lord Jesus Christ. It is different from other kinds of communities. We start where the Apostle Paul told us in this passage I read. He says, if there is an impetus for caring and love, if there's any compassion or sympathy, then I want you all to get on board. Then he gives the big idea. He says the foundation for being in community is for all of us as individuals to stop being so self-absorbed and start thinking about the other person ahead of ourselves. He says, do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit. Nothing. Now, the world tells us to think that our lives will be better, we will be happier, if people see us as more successful or popular or richer. But that is not true. Our lives get better and happier when we focus on loving other people. I'm not saying that you should give up trying to be excellent at what you do. Keep on striving to be your best. But keep love in your sights. Consider for a moment this question. Who is the most popular football player in the state of Texas? It is not any of the big money Dallas Cowboys, nor any of the college players. 100% the most popular football player in the state of Texas is J.J. Watt of the Houston Texans. Why do people love him? Well, when he's not flattening quarterbacks on a Sunday, he is out in the community of Houston working with underprivileged inner city kids. The J.J. Watt Foundation, in just a few years, has raised more than $40 million for programs to help kids academically and athletically. And when Hurricane Harvey devastated Houston a few years back, J.J. Watt and his wife were not just there with a donation. They didn't just drop off a big check. They were there in the food banks, handing out the food to the people who were coming in. And people see his example, and they want to be like JJ. Love comes first. Your neighbor comes before your ego. Paul says, just stop looking at trying to get all the things that you want and start setting your mind to focus on the well-being of those around you. Second, community requires a deep sense of shared humanity. You cannot create true community when some people think they are better than others or that they have more privileges than others. Shared humanity is a very important idea for me. It means that when we are out with other people, that there's nothing that really separates us. Not money, nor status, nor age, nor religious affiliation, nor sexual identity. It means that when I look at another person, I see someone who is spiritually connected with me. I came across this story a few days ago, and it spoke to me powerfully about what it means to be human and to understand the need for community. It comes from an essay by Todd Goldberg from the Palm Springs area. He wrote, "A few weeks before all this, an old friend emailed me to tell me a story." And Todd goes on, "She's in her early 40s, lives in Florida. She has cancer. She could live 6 months, or she could live 20 years. That day, a cop pulled her over for speeding. He asked her why she was going so fast. She told him she was losing her hair that day due to chemotherapy and wanted to feel the wind in her hair just one more time before it was all gone. So she was speeding with the windows open. She ran her fingers through her hair and showed the cop all the strands that came loose between her fingers. The cop ordered her to get out of the car. As she stood by the side of the highway, the cop hugged her. He hugged her, and he told her that she should try not to speed. She should try not to die that day. He told her that going 90 in a 65 zone is dangerous. He told her to slow down and appreciate the beauty of the day. Don't die today, he said. Kick that cancer's butt. Then he let her go. Didn't even ask for ID. Just got in his cruiser and left. And I say, you know what could have happened there. She broke the law, and the highway patrolman's job was to enforce the law. You know that is how it could have gone. But you know and hear that it went the way it needed to go. It went the right way. This is what the Apostle Paul was talking about in his letter to the Corinthians when he said, the law kills, but the Spirit gives life. Creating and building community starts with feeling our shared humanity and all of its fragility. Don't play the categories game, reducing others to their category: homeless, wealthy person, immigrant, conservative, liberal. Everyone you meet is unique with their own hopes, their own pains. And everyone shares some of those same fears and hopes that you have. We share humanity. Finally, third thing, community requires loving effort to sustain it. Right now, it feels hard to maintain community while we're not face to face, but we have to keep trying. Our young people need to know that they are loved and supported. Our older folks need to know that they are not forgotten. The folks who are not working need more than an economic safety net. They also need a social and spiritual safety net. And remember that camp story I shared a few minutes ago? Community is a do-it-yourself thing. To have a community requires that everyone contributes their own love and caring. As urgent as we feel about coming back together, as much as we're feeling that need for our own selves, let us right now be even more intentional about the desire to strengthen community. We need to be thinking carefully about all those around us. What do they need? What will make them feel safe and loved? Then I hope that this week you will do your part to make someone feel loved. And as we move into the future. Hope that you and I will make the effort to love as Jesus loved. Now, as you're hearing about this kind of community that we talk about here at Sacramento First Christian Church, perhaps you are far away, perhaps you are new to our fellowship, meeting us just by way of live stream. If you would like to know more, I hope that you will send a chat message on the Facebook stream, or you can call the church or email the church, look us up on the web, and we would love to talk to you more. If it is your desire to be joined more fully with Christ and with this church, again, just reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. Amen.